Happy Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
The weather's going to be beautiful, though, Tyler.
It is. It'll be nice. I'll
Get
have to look
out-
out the window a little bit today.
I was going to say, get outside.
Good luck.
Take a break. Get outside. I think we're in the middle of an Indian summer. Get out and enjoy
Possibly.
the weather as much as you can this week. That includes yourself, Tyler.
Okay.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. This is the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Tyler Keith. You can catch us Monday through Friday here at 10 a.m. to noon. Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you have cable still, we say thank you because that helps support programs such as this. You can catch us on Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T. And we're also on the radio, 89.3 WBLD, 88.1 WBFH. And today, we want to say thank you to the West Bloomfield Fire Department. They are streaming today's Megacast live on their Facebook page, so thank you to them. We have a lot to get to today as well, Tyler. Friday afternoon, the Michigan State Supreme Court handed down the ruling regarding the governor's executive orders. And there is really no clarification in this, and we're starting to see the fallout continue. And the governor herself is asking for clarification as well. I will say I've heard everything. Some businesses, hey, it doesn't matter. No, you don't have to wear a mask. And now we're seeing the health department start to issue some of those orders as well. And that kind of leads us into today's headlines. If you want to head over to civiccentertv.com, we post the daily's headlines under the coronavirus page each and every morning before heading here into the studio. So with that, Michiganders are still required to wear masks, and the size of indoor gatherings will still be limited. That's according to Robert Gordon. He's the director of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. He announced a series of public health orders Monday afternoon to continue to require a mask and limit gatherings to stop the spread of COVID-19. I guess some people are wondering if he has the power to do that. Why didn't they do that initially, which other states, in fact, did do?
Yeah, that is a big question, and that's maybe part of the contention toward the governor from other members of the state government, particularly those on the Republican caucus in the Michigan legislature. If this was an option for maintaining the public health, why did the governor need to take executive action that maybe wasn't entirely necessary? That's a valid question. That being said, state health department and probably a lot of the local health departments will be making a lot more regulations going forward, I would suspect, as the governor's orders have been shot down, at least until there's some clarification from the Michigan Supreme Court about which of the governor's executive orders still stand and which of those have expired or been revoked due to the order from the Supreme Court.
And the governor is asking for clarity because she's warning that unemployment benefits could be in jeopardy because she's asking, well, when, after the ruling on her executive order goes into effect, she's asking, when is that? Saying that more than 800,000 Michiganders could be at risk of losing unemployment benefits if the orders are struck down immediately. She's been saying that it's 21 days from the ruling. Others are saying, no, it was as of 4:35 Friday afternoon. But when the court ruled that her executive powers were unconstitutional, it wiped away months of executive orders, among them orders that expanded unemployment insurance during the pandemic. With the governor's emergency powers now gone, any expansion of state unemployment now has to come from the legislature. The governor is asking for clarity on when the ruling takes effect, hoping for more time. Keep in mind, this does not impact anyone on federal unemployment insurance. Again, so many questions because she issued well over 100 orders, I think, during this time, and not all of them were directly related to mask and social distancing.
Yeah, and that's what the biggest concern, I think, is across the board and what our state leadership, from the executive level down to the legislative level and even at the judicial level, are going to be reviewing first, because that's what's going to be affecting so many Michiganders, as unemployment already has. If those benefits that were put into place as a result of the executive orders from the governor are then revoked due to the Supreme Court's ruling. I think that's first on the list from the state legislature and the governor's office of what needs to be fixed so that Michiganders don't continue to take negative effects financially and economically because of the pandemic.
Also on civiccentertv.com, if you want to follow along on the headlines, Unlock Michigan campaign, it is still going to move forward. So for those not familiar with this, they have been collecting signatures for months to repeal the 1945 Emergency Powers of Governors Act. It says it's going to work. It says its work is not done and still intends to see the process through, despite the Supreme Court ruling. A spokesperson for the campaign said while the court's ruling is good news, there is concern the upcoming election could replace some of the judges with more liberal ones, which could lead to a reversal of the decision. Unlock Michigan reportedly turned in 539,384 signatures Friday, exceeding the minimum of just over 340,000. Michigan voters, it needed to gather those within 180 days. They say they did do that. Now those signatures are going to the Michigan Bureau of Elections for certification. Once that is done, if the signatures are deemed to be valid, the measure would then go to the GOP-led state legislature for approval. Whitmer would not have veto power. So they're saying, we're not going to risk this. We want to go ahead and move it forward, and let's get this changed once and for all.
Yeah, and I understand the sentiment behind that. They want to make sure they get what they want, even if they end up in a situation where they don't get everything that they want, which includes maintaining the power they currently have in the government as it stands, with the results of what may or may not happen in November of this year. But at the same time, the orders have been shot down by the Supreme Court. Well, we'll see to what extent that is. Maybe it is worth continuing on if all of those orders are not struck down and there's still something to fight to release for this group. But otherwise, I think what they're doing is entirely political.
Well, and I think, too, though, one side of that could be, well, we went through all this work, so let's go ahead and just continue to follow through to make sure that there isn't the possibility of a reversal. But one thing that's coming out of this, especially so close to the election, is it is putting a spotlight on the elections and judges and why it matters on who you vote into these positions. Because I think so many times when it comes from Board of Education or the judges, so many people don't really take the time to do their homework to see who they're voting for in these categories. They maybe do the big ones or, county executive or governor or things of that nature. But then on that hyper local level, they're just maybe filling in the box or leaving those blank. But this just goes to show why it's important to do your homework and vote for the candidate that you want to see in those positions. Yeah,
I think more than anything, we've spoken on this ad nauseum over the last several weeks, the pandemic has brought that realization to people, I think, on a more general level, that these down ballot elections are just as important, if not more important, than those those high interest elected positions like a president, like the governor, like the Secretary of State. These other positions down the line are just as important and for your day-to-day life are frankly more important than those positions because they are the most directly affecting your way of living.
I will say I try to do my homework on every candidate. I'll usually print off the sample ballot and then go through them. When it comes to judges, it is really hard to get information on some of these judges, especially ones that are running for the first time, because their campaign finance reports aren't available for you to check yet to see who is donating to their campaigns. So it can be harder. And that's why I tend to go to people that I do know that works in that legal profession, a lot of lawyers, and ask them for their opinions, because when you work directly with these people or in front of the people, then they can give you a little bit more of an educated opinion about some of the judges, which, kind of goes, you wonder too, why are judges elected if none of us are going to do our homework, or it makes it hard to find out the information behind the judges before we vote on them.
Yeah, some of these positions are really tough to understand those candidates because there's such little information out there, and some of them do that on purpose, and some of them do that just because it is their first time running and they're focused on outreach, and they're focused on making sure that they are visible in the local areas that they're being elected in or on the statewide level, so that people recognize them at the very least, because they could have the best policies in the world, they could have the best ideas in the world, and if people don't recognize them, they're not going to vote for them on a mass level. So sometimes it's a matter of focus, and sometimes it's a matter of information just being held close to you instead.
Also on CivicCenterTV.com, 24 new COVID-19 outbreaks reported at Michigan schools. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services reporting Monday afternoon. That's when the numbers come out once a week now. That 24 outbreaks have been recorded in Michigan schools and universities within the last week, impacting about 124 people overall. A total of 85 students and staff are affected in the latest outbreaks in pre-K to grade 12. 6 colleges and universities were also on the list of new outbreaks, with cases ranging from 2 to 20. Now, this is from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The local health departments report it to the state, and then they, after much contention from a lot of reporters and people, other people, the state is now saying that they'll be more transparent and post these outbreaks once a week. Now, an outbreak, keep in mind, is defined by the state as 2 or more COVID-19 cases among people who are from different households but may have shared exposure. And if you want to see the entire list, if you go to CivicCenterTV.com, click on the State of Michigan tab, and you can work your way to those numbers from that point if you want to see if your school is on the list. That makes it hard, because what the schools are trying to say is that we are taking the precautions and we will put those numbers out through the local health department and do the contact tracing through that avenue if need be. But if you're a parent who your child had no contact with the individual that was directly related to that case, then you're not notified. But this is one way they can keep up with it.
Yeah, they have to somehow, because there's so much interaction particularly in in-person learning situations and hybrid learning situations, where you're in school some days, you're out of schools the other day, you're around a lot of the same people, but there's a lot of variables there too, because if you have one person around 23 other people, 24, 25 other people, those 25 people are around a bunch of other people in their day-to-day life, week-to-week life. There are a lot of variables at play there of who can infect whom and how that can go down the line. So these regular checks and having access to this information is critical on a local level and across the state as we continue to battle COVID-19.
6 months into it, and we're still 6 months into it, and we are still doing this. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, but when we come back, we have a great show for you. We'll be speaking with Rear Ends. It's definitely one of the most favorite shops for women to be able to get your blue jeans. We'll be checking in with them. They have a great event coming up to raise money for an important cause, and then we'll speak with the Southfield Chamber of Commerce. Greg Flynn will be with us a little bit later in the second hour of the Megacast. He is the chief of the West Bloomfield Fire Department. Always great to hear from him. I'm always excited to speak with David Dulio. He's a professor of political science. Boy, we could probably have him on every day from now until the election, because everything's changing so crazy.
Yeah, we had him on before the presidential debate, and then presidential debate happens. That's big news, and then it ends up being the smallest story of one of the most minor stories of the week in comparison to everything else that's going on. We have a whole new slate of political news and information to dive into that really has come in less than a week's time.
Right.
It's insane. We're only in October.
It really is. It really is. Then we'll round out the show speaking with the West Bloomfield Historical Society. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's going to be who?
And whether we wear green
or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. We are here in the Civic Center TV studios, 89.3 studios in the greater West Bloomfield area. For all of those on Zoom, you'll see they had an update, I guess, yesterday. So Tyler's always reaching over, correcting me as I try to pull things up here. But excited to have our first guest with us, Ariana Carps. She is with the very, very popular store Rear Ends, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you for being with us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
So I know we want to speak about your upcoming fundraiser for a very important event, but before we get to that, how are things going for you in the stores? Is business picking back up?
Yeah, you know what I've been saying is 2020 won't be my best year of business, but that's okay. We're surviving. And we've had great community support from the customers who've shopped with us for so many years. So I'm definitely seeing traffic pick back up, and it's great to see. It's great that people are out there, they're wanting to shop, and they're wanting to support local.
Well, and I'm wondering, too, is business going to start to get a little bit better as well? Because, you know, with so many people remote working, they can wear jeans all day long, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say being in the casual space that like we've always been has been a really big benefit because people aren't dressing up the same way that they would. So I think needs are different, and the Rear Ends clothes of casual jeans and easy sweaters, you know, we have some dressy stuff, but nothing you can wear to a wedding or, you know, a big fundraiser. So our space is really what people are wearing right now.
Well, that's good. Hopefully that will the longer we stay remote learning, which I think for a lot of people could be permanent from here on out, then maybe there will be a continual need for your casual clothing, and the sales will pick up and kind of make up for the loss that you've experienced over 2020. But we have you on the show today because I know you guys have an important fundraiser coming up. Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, so tonight we're doing a big ladies' night Zoom where I can show fashion to a bunch of people. You can log on with your friends and shop that way. And part of it, we're doing a fundraiser for an organization called the Chick Mission. They're focused on issues critical to cancer patients, like fertility challenges that can follow after radiation, chemotherapy, drug treatment, and surgery. So we are matching up to $1,000 in donations to the Chick Mission. Their big annual fundraiser is coming up. It's this week, and it's obviously all virtual. So I am going to be jumping into Elizabeth Lake on Saturday as a big thank you to the people who have donated to us thus far.
Well, it's a good day to jump into the lake, though, because while it's colder, it's going to be beautiful this weekend. I think it's still going to be 73.
Yeah, I'm really happy that it landed on this weekend and not last weekend.
There are so many important organizations and nonprofits out there. How did you guys come up with supporting this one?
So one of the people closest to me in the world, she's like my other sister. She is on the board of the Chick Mission, and it's kind of one of those issues that if it doesn't impact you personally, you might not realize that it exists. You might not realize that, like I never did, a cancer diagnosis at 25 of any kind might mean you're not able to have kids ever. You know, I have 2 kids. I'm so lucky. I'm so thankful, and I'm so blessed. And so to hear that, like, not only do you have cancer, but your hopes and dreams of the future might be wiped away unless you save your fertility, which is not even being discussed in Michigan. It's up to every state to legislate the insurance providers. And so in Michigan, it's just out of pocket. And that's a lot of money for a very young woman without help, without a family, without that. I mean, I can't be more thankful that it wasn't an issue for me, but I want to help people that it is and for.
You are right. When we think about breast cancer or cancer diagnosis in any regard, that is one side side effect that no one really discusses. There are so many other ways to support people. I know there are programs to even try to drive people to and from, their treatments. And when it comes to, not being able, your future, your life being impacted. So it's great that you guys are able to highlight this. And going forward, is there any plan to try to take this from a mission of awareness to getting the legislature to change some of the laws for the insurance companies?
CHIG Mission is based in New York, and they have been going to Albany to fight there. And states where it comes up on the ballot, where it's being discussed, they then try to focus their efforts. It's about a 3-year-old organization. They've given out 80 grants so far. And so they are continuing to press forward, but they're still growing. And so this is a benefit to help them grow so they can take the issue to more and more states to make it so that it's being discussed at the state level. So it's mandated by insurance that this fertility treatment would be covered alongside cancer treatment.
So for tonight's event, if people are interested, how do they get involved? Are there still enough virtual spaces for them to join?
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to our website. It's shoprearends.com. In the main menu, there's a tab for the October 6th Ladies Night. That tab will take you to both the Zoom links to join at either 4:30 or 8 p.m., as well as there's a registration page that you can fill out, which will enter you to win one of tons of raffle prizes. The top prizes are $200 gift certificates to the store, and there's many smaller items. Also on that page is the link to our Chick Mission fundraiser for the Great Egg Freeze, which is what their big fundraiser is called, as well as the Chick Mission's website. So you can learn more about this great organization and what they're doing.
So tell us about the Great Egg Freeze. That is a catchy name, though.
They are quite creative, these chicks. So normally they do a big fundraiser and it's in person, and obviously 2020 changed that. So they really try to make it so it's a fun event for everybody to get involved. So you pledge to raise money. I personally pledged to raise $1,000. I well exceeded that. The store is trying to raise and then match $1,000 to hit $2,000. And once you hit your donation goal, you take the plunge. You take the polar plunge, and there's still the ability to join to create your own fundraiser or your own team. If this is a cause that speaks to you, you have time. The end date, I want to say, is the 15th. So they'll send you a great package with an adorable beanie and a great towel to prepare. And it was a warm weather beanie. I got a cute swim cap and a big towel to wrap me in for when I complete the plunge. And so they're trying to raise $250,000. At my last check, they were up to, I think, 150, maybe more. And so they're really working hard in the difficult fundraising space of breast cancer awareness and cancer awareness in October, because it's so full. And also, people are donating a little less this year, but they are still trying to complete their mission because cancer diagnoses didn't stop with COVID.
Ariana Carps with us from Rear Ends. They're holding a fundraiser tonight, 4:40 p.m. and 6 p.m. You can find more information on that fundraiser and donate to the nonprofit organization that they are benefiting with it, the Chick Mission, by going to their website, shoprearends.com. That is shoprearends.com. Or you can go to the Chick Mission's website, www.thechickmission.com. So Ariana, let's go back onto the topic of business for just a few more minutes with you here today. Mm-hmm. Obviously, earlier on in the pandemic, a lot of businesses were completely shut down. They had to go to online or curbside service. As we're going into the winter and the flu season as well, what is your business doing to prepare for people being less likely and less willing maybe to be going out regularly because of the cold weather and with increased caution coming up with the flu season and the continuing COVID-19 pandemic?
So I'll say back in March, and then obviously through April and May, my motto was, I'm going to make the decision for tomorrow at the end of business today, because so much is so constantly changing. So I think to say right now on October 6th, this is my plan for November 15th is wild because we don't really know what'll come, and it's too many moving parts. But this event that we're doing tonight is part of it. We typically do a ladies' night twice a year, once in the early spring and once in the early fall. It's an event that brings like 50 people, and it's fun, and there's wine. And we want to lose that energy and excitement that so many people get for fall clothing and for shopping with their friends. So this is the way to do it. We've had people coming in the store. Traffic has been nice, we're trying to minimize capacity anyway, so I don't want people bombarding the store. So this is a way to kind of keep that momentum, to allow for those fun events, but keep everyone safe.
When you're buying a new pair of jeans.
And, going forward, what's to say Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you buy a new pair of jeans, it sometimes I think I try on 10, 15, 20. So when you virtually shop, how are you handling that with jeans? Are you doing any type of curbside service or curbside returns if they don't fit? Or is there a good way or tips that you can share with us to actually buy a great pair of jeans without having to try on so many?
We have always had a great return policy. So we offer a week for a full refund and up to a month for a store credit. So if you're not ready to come in and try on clothes, we'll consult with you. We'll send pictures. We'll go back and forth on what you need and what we think will work. And especially if you've shopped here before and we have a customer history, we'll have a better idea of your size. Unfortunately, we can't do any sort of consignment in and out. But, if you take the jeans on Monday, the following Monday, you can get a full refund for anything that doesn't work. We have people coming in and trying on again. So I can kind of tell someone who's really not comfortable being in around other people what our trend as our slower times and when we tend to be busier. A Tuesday morning at 10 isn't the busiest time. So if you can make it and that's when you want to shop and you want to come in here and have the full service, then absolutely. But otherwise, we can do it virtually. You can send me pictures from your closet. I'm happy to consult that way. And I've had a lot of people take us up on that offer as well.
Yeah, are you seeing people in the need to buy new clothing because maybe they put on the COVID-15? Instead of the freshman 15, the COVID-15.
There's been a little bit of that, but I think people now, I feel like that was like a beginning of summer thing. And now I'm seeing a lot of people who are like, I did it. And now I'm course correcting for that. The thing that I've noticed is people walk in there saying, what do I need? I'm not going anywhere. But if it's something new and it's something exciting, then it makes you want to get dressed in the morning. I know for me personally, the first day we were closed, I came to work. I just had my hair in a ponytail. I put on a sweat outfit. I felt terrible. My stress was through the roof. My anxiety was through the roof. The next day I did my hair. I did my makeup. I dressed like I would for work. I didn't care that nobody was walking in, that I wasn't seeing anybody. And I felt better. So I think getting out of your sweatpants, the things that allowed us to get the COVID-15, putting on jeans, putting on something new and feeling good about yourself is the best way to move forward, even if maybe you're not going that far.
I think a lot of parents can use that advice right now as they are at home with their children trying to remote work and remote learn at the same time. So a nice little tip there to share with people for a pick-me-up as they continue to try to make it through COVID-19. Quickly, before we let you go, can you share your locations? You have two?
Yes, we have two. We have one on Orchard Lake Road in West Bloomfield. It's between 14 and Maple. And our other is in Bloomfield Hills at Maple and Telegraph in the Bloomfield Plaza. And virtually tonight on Zoom at both 4:30 and 8 p.m. And you can find all that info on our website, shoprearends.com.
And quickly, the event tonight, do you have to buy a ticket? How does that work?
Nope, we're asking people to pre-register, and that enters you to win the raffle. But if you don't pre-register, you can still join. You just won't be in the raffle.
Great. Thank you so much.
And why not try and win a prize?
We all like prizes, especially such great ones. You guys are you're raffling off 3 $200 gift certificates, as well as you all have smaller gift certificates as well. So sit at home, maybe invite one girlfriend over that's in your pod, your pandemic pod, if we want to call it that. Open up a bottle of wine and still take part in this virtually.
Yes. That's the goal.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time. Ariana Carps with us from Rear Ends. They have 2 locations here, West Bloomfield as well as Bloomfield Hills. And again, if you want to check out tonight's event, they're having a ladies only event, shoprearends.com. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
This is the Oakland County Megacast. I'm here in the studio along with the one and only Tyler Keith as we continue to bring you interviews of newsmakers and people of interest here throughout the greater West Bloomfield area as we all continue to try to navigate COVID-19 and the pandemic together. And one of the areas so hard hit during all of this, the businesses. How do you know each and every day things are changing daily? Let's go ahead and bring in Jasmin Patton. She is the Director of Communications and Events for the Southfield Chamber of Commerce. Jasmin, thanks for being with us on the Megacast. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The latest orders and the changes that came out on Friday afternoon. As someone who is a member of the chamber and you're trying to help lead these businesses through this pandemic, what are you telling your members right now about the changes and the Supreme Court ruling?
It's so fresh and so new that we have not actually gone through the official process of explaining and giving insight into all the options. I think the one thing that is really great about community is the fact that even though there have been changes, and this process for all of us has been a roller coaster, we're often seeing in the community and the interaction with businesses that individuals are respectable in honoring the owners and businesses' wishes of what they're comfortable with and doing business and engaging with them. So to us, it's just really important for us to stay well connected to those changes and to provide the information that they're in need of to make the most informed decisions for their business.
I know in the beginning when the mask mandate first went into place, there were a lot of people who were kind of fighting back, and so many of these businesses, especially the ones that were dealing with the general public, were having to deal with issues of people not wanting to wear a mask, and there were a few confrontations. seemed like everyone got used to wearing a mask and understanding that it was a mandate. So are there concerns that it will swing back to the beginning where people did not want to wear the mask?
I don't think that we're there yet. I think that this is part of, the business trends that we're following are also a part of human behavior, and also us looking at science and evolving with that. We have trust that our businesses are able to pivot. What we can attest to during this time frame is seeing small businesses pivot entire business models, looking at redirecting where they're spending their dollars in order to spend less but have larger impact. And a lot of what we're really getting from the businesses they are adaptable. And we fortunately have not heard of, in our area, any negative altercations. And I have the utmost confidence in our business community that they will continue to be mature and evolving in the most positive light in all the changes that we're seeing for now and in the future.
For so many of the businesses that are struggling, they're looking to spend that dollar where it will go the furthest. What advice are you giving them on being able to invest in something new to help them pivot when they're already struggling with that bottom line?
Encouraging businesses to operate using the lean method has really assisted us in getting to the core of the competencies and who they're wanting to attract, who is their new ideal client, because some of their favored customer base is just not comfortable returning back to what we know now as the norm. So really just finding for them what's important to them as far as attracting the client that they're in need of now, and looking at what they're already utilizing and seeing what ways we can help elevate some of those tools. Of course, being in a digital time, having to offer educational resources to small business owners who perhaps did not lean heavily on digital or social media, and offering those tools and insights to them to allow them to look at things and think of things differently, and being able to reach some of their already established base, and then identifying the new base of customers that they're wanting to align with. So really just being adaptable and offering those digital tools has been huge for us, not only to offer insight to the small businesses, but also for the chamber model. Chamber of Commerce have also been hit hard during this pandemic, and a lot for us is being able to pivot and utilize the same information that we're providing to small businesses in order to really encourage them that we're in this with them, and that we're willing to walk through this process with them and hold their hand, and that we have resources available for them so that they're not alone. The one thing that we want to make sure is that our small businesses understand that you're not in this by yourself. And not only the Southfield Chamber of Commerce, but the city of Southfield and even Oakland County are providing a vast majority of resources that have assisted them in being able to, those who were able to stay open, stay afloat, and feel optimistic on any changes that may come up, that they're not having to face them by themselves.
Jasmin Patton with us. She is the Director of Communications and Events at the Southfield Area Chamber of Commerce with us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Jasmin, you talk about those resources that are available to these businesses so that they can understand that they're not alone. There is some partnership in this across the board. For those businesses that maybe aren't a member of the Southfield Area Chamber of Commerce or another local chamber, or maybe are not as aware of how they can obtain these resources from the county and from the state and so on, what are some of the resources available to them as a member of the Southfield Area Chamber of Commerce, or in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, to help them weather this continuing storm of COVID-19?
Sure. So we have on our website at www.southfieldchamber.com a COVID-19 resource page where we list a lot of the resources that are available. It's ever evolving. There are some resources that are outdated as far as programs and deadlines that have passed, but there are always new programs that are popping up. So we really make sure to keep that page current current so that anyone that's checking that page is able to see what resources, whether it's financial or previous webinars that we have done that could still assist them during this time. We were very webinar heavy in partnering with a lot of individuals and organizations and businesses in the community during the height of being indoors. So we have a lot of those recordings from how to pivot, how to be adaptable. There's a financial forecasting webinar. So I would encourage anyone that is interested in just tapping into what resources are available to start there first. We also have pivoted our own model for digital advertising. We send weekly newsletters. We offer advertising opportunities at a special rate for our members and also for community members. We have some in-person events. One that has actually been able to maintain throughout all of these changes is coming up next Monday. We have our golf outing. That is a socially distanced, safe networking event, being outside, but offering some of that normal-ish, as far as we used to know it, interaction and being able to still have in-person engagement and doing some networking. We are building out and kicking off a speed networking opportunity that will be virtual. If you go to our website under our events tab, you will see that every month we have virtual events from coffee meetups at 8 a.m. We have our Chamber one-on-one that happens once a month, where we spend an hour and a half creating an intimate opportunity for members and community members to engage with us and to tell us their pain points, and for us to basically be able to follow up with them to offer additional resources that are a little more personalized and to give more insight into what resources we have available at the Chamber. So we are fully adaptable, and really with the Chamber, the beautiful thing about having that type of in-person connection point is when you tell us what your pain point is, we'll really work to figure out what resources are available for you. And that efficiency for us has really allowed some of our small businesses and community leaders and business owners to take the load off and really doing some of the legwork for research, where we're able to figure out, okay, let's do this questionnaire, let's figure out what your pain points are, and let's provide you with some resources and then give you the resources we already have in-house that you may not know of. So I really would encourage anyone that's interested in learning more about resources that are available in the community or resources that are available as a Chamber member to reach out to us. I love to talk. We very engaging. So please feel free to either email at info@southfieldchamber.com or give us a call. We are a very down-to-earth chamber, and we're willing to help and assist those that we can. And if we're not able to assist you, we will most certainly point you in the direction of those that are able to.
And Jasmin, I wonder too, do you help some of these small business owners navigate the programs that are available, like the grants and things of that nature, because they can be so confusing to actually get from point A to point Z to get that paperwork completed, get it in on time, and then actually receive the money? It could be confusing. And if you are a small business, let's say 3, 4, 5 employees, you don't have the resources to be able to navigate that. So is that something the Chamber does for those smaller businesses?
It's not an official program that we're offering, but it is a service that we have provided in the past. Our executive director, Jason Blanks, has vast knowledge and experience in grants and grant writing. So he has been excellent and really answering some of those questions and some of the confusion that you see that small businesses and just individuals alike. Anytime that you're reading through paperwork that has fine print, or you're experiencing completing documents that you've never seen before, it can be a little bit intimidating. We've hosted webinars with experts who have given insight into what the grants offer and what the qualifications are. The main pain points that have been reoccurring that I really would encourage anyone who is interested in grant funding is to do your best to get your books in order, and making sure that you have your taxes, that you have your EIN number, that your bank statements are put together. I think that legwork while we're navigating through this will really assist any professional, including the chamber, and connecting with professional resources or helping you in-house to be able to assist you as efficient as possible. And that's a pain point for some small businesses that maybe have not always felt that they had a reason to do those things and have them in order on a month-to-month basis. And they wait until the end of the year for, the upcoming tax season to kind of get those things in order. It's imperative to really stay on top of that portion and really identifying what your needs are. I know that when we hear that there is loan money or grant money available, especially during a pandemic, the initial response is you want as much money as possible, but a lot of the resources that are available are asking you for specific amounts and what you're really wanting to use these dollars for. So having an idea of what resources you're in need of, even if it's not a perfect plan, it really would assist those that are able to provide more resources for you or to sit down with you, direct you, and lead you toward the direction of tapping into those resources better.
That's such great advice. During this pandemic, how important is it for these business owners, especially the small business owners, to connect with other people to help them navigate this crisis?
Honestly, my personal philosophy is that it's the number one thing that I think that we can do that could stay and remain consistent and constant during all the other changes that are happening around us. Personal connection and building relationships is not only a philosophy that we hold dear at the chamber and what we're all about in creating those connections, but it's imperative that we tap into every resource available to us. And a lot of times it's just through conversations like you and I are having right now that you're really able to identify what resources are available to you through connections. So I would encourage not only person to person, peer to peer, mentor to mentor. Right now, the really exciting thing about, and I know it's very difficult to see excitement during this time, but one of the things that I'm really enjoying through this process of just navigating and getting more resources and knowledge to share is that information that normally was not available to you without visiting or going to a conference or being in person in order to connect with individuals. More people are tapping into offering virtual resources and free resources. There is an unlimited amount of resources available, and I think that that is one of the pluses in being able to maybe tap into mentors that may have been booked or having a higher price point. They're now lowering their price points to make themselves more accessible because they know that with this virtual net, they're able to attract and talk to more people. So I would just take advantage of the opportunity of connecting with peers, doing mentor to mentor coaching, as well as uplinking to individuals that you think may be able to help you, maybe not in the sense of giving you something, but giving you insight into how you can navigate the changes and the times that we're facing right now. So I'm all about personal connection, and I believe that small businesses and B2B, business to business, I think it's very important that we stay connected, whether it's through a phone, whether it's through Zoom, phone calls. Get creative and really think outside the box. I've heard some very incredible stories of people being able to tap into resources simply from an ask, and people being more willing to give and open to that process because they're understanding that we're all facing challenges right now. And I think that is good business, having those personal connections for sure.
Jasmin Patton with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. She is the Director of Communications and Events with the Southfield Chamber of Commerce. You know, so many of these businesses have been able to survive the summer months, and we have had some beautiful weather this summer, which I think has also helped, especially the restaurants and maybe the smaller coffee shops, so people are comfortable with sitting outside. But we're about to go into the winter months, and winter in Michigan doesn't, let's just say sitting outside may not be as pleasurable. Are there concerns for these businesses as we go into the cold weather months, and what's being done to help them with that?
There's always concerns. I mean, even prior to COVID, there's always concerns that traffic slows down, especially with Michigan roads and Michigan weather. So I can't pretend that concern will go away, but what I'm optimistic about is the innovation that we're seeing from people coming up with solutions. I've seen restaurants who have dived into a model of having still outdoor seating in domes and bubbles. I'm seeing people being really creative with having fire pit and enclosed tents and outdoor heating spaces. I have no doubt in my mind that we'll still continue to see resources and innovation during this process of individuals trying to get through to the next season. Right now, I have not heard a ton of bigger picture resources that are being offered, but I know that, of course, as we all know, delivery has picked up a ton for restaurants. I know small business owners that are picking up additional jobs working for companies like Uber Eats and DoorDash. So I'm very optimistic that although, just like before, during winter months, we've been able to navigate that, the Michiganders will be able to do the same, and maybe not on the same scale, but I think with innovation and technology, there will be other resources and ways that we can be innovative and stay connected, to have brainstorming conversations and to pull together in order to give other options or alternatives to what we know. Just because we haven't seen it yet doesn't mean that it's not coming down the pipeline. And those are the type of conversations that we're engaging in now, just to find out what are some of the thoughts, what are some of the resources that people are looking at. But the creativity is something that excites me, and I'm hoping that individuals are inspired to really think outside the box and to look at their own business, and to look at resources and ways to still invite people into their space during those winter months.
Fingers crossed we have a mild winter and a little snow so people can still get out and navigate the roadways. I guess we should maybe check the Farmer's Almanac. That's always reliable, right? Jasmin, quickly before we let you go, anything we didn't touch on that you want to let our listeners and viewers know?
Yeah, we're really excited next Monday to have our golf outing. We are having shotgun at 12 noon at Plum Hollow Country Club in Southfield. So that's exciting for us to have our official in-person event. If you're a golfer, we have just a few foursomes left. So if you're interested, please let us know. And upcoming at the end of the year, we're very excited to reinvent the wheel and create a new event, Excellence in the City. We will be highlighting and discussing all the things and all the ways that people have been really creative, innovative, programming, small businesses, mayors giving feedback. Ascension Providence is presenting and assisting us with shedding light on what our health heroes are doing. And we're going to have a special program at the end of the year to really celebrate us getting through all the changes that we have. So please stay tuned to that. Be sure to connect with us and follow us on all social media platforms at Southfield Chamber.
Are you guys on TikTok?
We are not on TikTok. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
I think you should get a TikTok and start it with your golf outing.
We've looked at TikTok. We've had a couple of people saying we should engage with some fun videos, but Instagram has been really innovative, and they have created like a TikTok version called Reels. So that's a new tool that they're using. So we'll have to get more innovative and creative on that end for sure.
I'm still figuring out Snapchat. So Jasmin Patton with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you to you and your team for supporting our businesses. They need all the support and the help that they can get right now, because small businesses are definitely the backbone of our community.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to check in with Greg Flynn. He is the chief of the West Bloomfield Fire Department. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus. Michigan, We're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/contain-COVID. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl, alongside Tyler Keith here in our studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. We are going to head outdoors right now to check in with the fire department, West Bloomfield Fire Department Chief Greg Flynn. A little bit of a different background for you there, Chief. Where are you right now? Chief, can you hear us? I think we're still getting set up here with Chief Flynn. Chief, can you hear us now?
I can't.
Oh. Hey, Chief, how are you today?
I'm great, Ronnie. How are you?
Quite the backdrop behind you there. You want to tell us what's going on?
Well, we're here at Oakland Community College in Auburn Hills, and we have our Fire Ops 101 program going on.
For those not familiar with the Fire Ops program, what is it and why is it important?
Oh, the Fire Ops program is a great opportunity for local leaders. We actually have one of our state senators out here, Jim Runstead's with us today, to get a real feel for what a firefighter does every day. Everything from they're going to go through a simulation where they actually go in and have to extinguish a simulated fire. It's real fire, but controlled by the professionals in the control tower. They've got a car fire over to this side of me, an extrication way back behind me. And on the back side of this building is a hazardous material leak that they have to put on. They have to don the chemical suits and go in, actually plug a 55-gallon drum that's leaking a hazardous chemical. And then the last simulation that they rotate through, just down the street from me here at the simulated city here in Auburn Hills at OCC, the Crest site, is a series of homes. And so there'll be a medical emergency in one of these homes. They'll pull up in the ambulance. They'll take all the equipment into the house. They'll load up a simulated patient, a weighted mannequin, and they got to bring them out and then transport them to the hospital. And they'll drive around a little bit here within our Sim City here at the Crest Center.
Chief, you've been doing these, I would imagine, for a few years. Have you ever had any elected leader who freaked out when they went into the fire room and couldn't make it through?
No, the great thing about this whole process is, and this is a joint labor management initiative where our union locals participate and contribute to making this a success. So there are handlers, right, firefighters from their communities that are right by them, getting them psyched up before they go in, making sure that they're prepared to go into the simulation, and they stay right by their side all the way through. So when they're in the comfort of their professional firefighters, we haven't had anybody panic or have any kind of distress that comes on through going through the simulation.
Well, I'm impressed then, because I actually did one of these in Detroit, and you go into that first room and the heat is intense and the smoke can become so overwhelming. It really is a good exercise for the public to get a feel for what the firefighters and first responders face on any given day.
Oh, it really is, Ron. And next year, it looks like I know where one of my invitations is going to. I think we need to get you back out here. We'll go live from out here with you. I think that our elected leaders are expected to make decisions on large ticket items. Fire trucks, as you know, aren't cheap. The extrication equipment that we use, the powered stretchers that we use, just everything, the bunker gear that the firefighters wear. And when you don't really understand what it's protecting you from, when you don't understand that little bit of heat that comes out of a simulated fire, compared to a real house that's burning with all those plastics and combustibles in there. It gives that elected official more knowledge when they're making those very important decisions on how they're going to spend the tax dollars that they've been entrusted with.
Chief Flynn with us here on the Oakland County Megacast, and they are also our Facebook partner of the day, and we want to say thank you for that. How often do you guys actually go through this training as far as from your firefighters' standpoint? Do they just do it in the beginning when they're going through their certification through the college, or do you use this facility throughout the years as a training program as well?
Yeah, thank you for that question. OCC has been a partner with public safety for decades. And when this facility was built, and boy, I remember, I'm an OCC alumni, and I remember it being thought of and seeing the drawings when I was in paramedic school here. So over the years, they've really grown those partnerships. So our firefighters, the Oakway Mutual Aid Group, those 10 communities that mutual aid here in Oakland County as part of the Oakway Group, we'll combine our resources and come out to the facility for the day. We'll do live fire burn training with our firefighters. We'll do move into what's called the flashover unit, where they actually bring the temperatures up high enough so that the smoke and the combustibles in the air actually flash over and show the fire behavior. And then the firefighters will go over different techniques to extinguish that. So we're out here for that. And then other things that come up, they can ladder buildings out here, do different kinds of operations with the burn pits that are over here to practice different techniques. So how often? I would say 2 to 3 times a year we'll do a larger operation out on this site. But every day we're doing specialized and individual training right inside of each engine house and within the township.
Fire Chief Greg Flynn with us from the West Bloomfield Fire Department and the Tri-City Fire Department as well. Join us today on the Oakland County Megacast. The West Bloomfield Fire Department also our Facebook partner on today's edition of the program. And Chief, these real-world simulations at a controlled site like this, how important are they for those that are on the front lines as fighting fires in our communities each day, to prepare them for when they do have to go out to somebody's home or somebody's business and not only make sure that primarily the people that are there are safe, but also potentially save this person's home or save this person's business as well?
We want to practice how we're going to play. And what this facility offers us is, again, I got 3 different styles of residential homes on the property. I have a bank, a storefront, like a strip mall storefront. So if we wanted to practice fire attack and come up and ladder that building, or we wanted to practice different techniques of escaping out of a 2nd-story window, what we have here is a safe environment to do that in. We don't need to worry about inconveniencing our residents by blocking a street or having the simulated smoke in the neighborhood, those types of things. This is a safe place to do all of that. And remember, we also, when we're learning, we want to practice and be kind of in an environment where if we do make a mistake or we're trying to master a skill, that we're in a place that people feel that they can do that and be a little bit vulnerable to really grow as a professional. And the Crest Center definitely provides that here at OCC in Auburn Hills.
What's some of the feedback you've received from the elected leaders over the years that have gone through this program?
Well, can we get Advil is one that usually comes at the end of the day.
It is so physically demanding. I think people forget that.
Sure it is. And I want to be very clear. There's 2 things for the listeners and the viewers to understand. This is not a sales pitch. We are not trying to sell them anything. It is our intent is to inform them. And we're not trying to make it unrealistic. So the entry that they do, in fact, this year they added a forced entry through the door to get into the fire building. So there's just a little bit of a lumber that we put in there, and then they'll use some tools and they'll break that. It's probably a little bit easier than what a real door would be. But again, we're just trying to give them the idea. And I think they really appreciate that, because no one wants to be set up to fail. We're setting these individuals up to succeed and grow their knowledge about what emergency services provide within their communities. And I don't know that every mayor or every township trustee has ever forced a door. I don't know that they've ever tried to advance a charged hose line and feel how heavy that is. And when it's rubbing against the different corners as it snakes through the house, how challenging that is and why you need another firefighter at the corners, we say, and advancing that hose line. So they really get an appreciation for what we do. And many of them are just grateful. They express sincere gratitude for the opportunity to look at what their firefighters, the men and women within their communities, their paramedics, are doing every single day. And it's a great opportunity, too, for our locals, our union locals, to have real positive engagement, and the fire chiefs to have a positive engagement and a positive day with their elected officials.
Chief Flynn with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Is there a program like this for the general public that if they were interested in maybe going into firefighting, does Oakland County Community College offer anything for them to kind of experience before they take a class?
You know, Ronnie, that is a great question. And I have no doubt that there is a little something that they would be able to expose them to. As you can maybe see in some of the activity behind me, that there's a lot, it's very organized, and we are practicing wearing masks. I just took mine off right before this interview, and I have nobody around me. But we're practicing as much of the physical distancing as possible, but all of our handlers are wearing their masks, all of our participants are wearing masks. And that's really the challenge for anybody trying to experience something right now. It is so demanding on us all for these different behavioral things we have to do to come together. So right now, I think there's probably very little for the general public to come in and participate with. But I would really encourage folks too, like if there are residents in West Bloomfield that wanted to experience some of that, to really call into my office, and we'll discuss really what their objectives are. And I think really any local fire chief wants the citizens to understand it. And that's what Fire Safety Month, October, is typically all about with our fire open houses. And unfortunately in West Bloomfield, being responsible and concerned about the wellness of our community, it's very difficult when people are excited to come to the fire station to maintain all that physical distancing. So unfortunately, one of those opportunities to see what we do right in the community, the fire open house, has been canceled for 2020.
So many of these traditions and educational experiences are being delayed right now because of COVID. I know we spoke with the police chief, and ride-alongs are delayed right now as well for members of the community. Hey, Chief, you said you were an OCC grad. How important is it to have these types of programs in our backyard and available to the people who are interested in this field?
Well, we really want the education to get the professionals in the door. I think we've talked on this broadcast about the challenges of getting new hires. There's been lots of national debate within public safety, police and fire, EMS, about diversity. And in order to create that level of diversity, we need access to the education. OCC provides that at a very reasonable cost. We're so fortunate to have the community college with a network of campuses that spans across our county. Now, the training is centralized here for that specific discipline of public safety, but those supportive classes that you do to finish your degree, you can pick that up at the Highland Lakes campus or the Royal Oak campus. But there's definitely a connection. And right now, so many of those classes are being offered virtually that it's a great opportunity to take advantage of it. And I just heard about a new program this morning about how frontline workers can apply for some tuition discounts, even reimbursement at OCC. For a limited time through the end of the year, they can apply, and then they'll have a series of years to use that tuition as part of a frontline worker give back program. So I'd encourage listeners and viewers to check that out at OCC's website.
West Bloomfield Fire Chief Greg Flynn with us on the Oakland County Megacast. You mentioned that October is Fire Safety Month without having the annual fire department open house. What are some other efforts that your department is taking to help keep the community informed about fire safety in their homes, at their businesses, as we have transitioned out of summer and into a new season? That's usually a time of transition where a lot of these issues do come to light. What's your department doing now to adjust to continue that education during this month and beyond, with COVID still a factor?
Right, we're definitely going to take advantage of things like the Megacast, our social media platforms, and try to engage folks that way. There's a lot of success with that. I mean, I look at the people I've been engaging with now on Zoom meetings, people that have always said they traditionally struggle with technology that are just a couple clicks away and you're talking face to face and they're framing their shots well. We've all gotten over our virtual background excitement and all of those things. And we just look at this maturing that we're having in this virtual world. And we hope to see, we're exploring some opportunities for some other virtual engagement with the Chamber of Commerce and just see what else we can do to reach out and make that connection with the public. Because even in the presence of the pandemic here with the novel coronavirus, fire safety is still important, maybe even more so, Ronnie and Tyler, with the amount of time people are spending home. And remember, it's getting colder and they're going to be even inside more often. So we don't want computers plugged in and left on beds and charging and the fans can't cool computers down and how many things we're plugging in because we're all fighting to recharge batteries for using the plug space and just keeping a mindset of safety, candles burning, all that kind of stuff that still remains a priority for us to reduce risk within the greater West Bloomfield area. You know, I'm joined behind me. You can see in the background, we got fire chiefs from all the Oakway departments up here behind me. And they share that same message to all their communities from Southfield to Rochester Hills to Ferndale and everything in between to make sure that our communities are safe.
I know typically it's a big reminder this time of year when we fall back to, check your smoke detectors. So many fire departments typically do have programs where they give out smoke detectors to families. Is West Bloomfield doing that this year or not?
So we have participated in programs like that. I would encourage people to friend us on Facebook and watch for those postings to come up as those resources are available. But I also want to make sure that people keep in mind that we have resources right in the township, whether it's the local Ace Hardware or a trip down to a Home Depot or to Lowe's where you can find your CO detector, batteries for those. And remember that many of those individual smoke alarms, replacing the battery, but many of our newer homes have wired interconnected smoke alarms, and those usually have a lifespan of about 10 years before those need to be switched out. So definitely something to do a little Google search on, find out where your home is as far as the chronology, the timeline for how long those units have been in service. And if we can ever be of assistance at the FD, we'd encourage you to reach out on the business line for that assistance.
Chief Greg Flynn with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Just a couple more minutes with you here. You mentioned a really great thing that I didn't think about because, again, when you don't have kids, these are little things we don't think about, but everyone on their computers and leaving them on surfaces such as your bed and they can't cool down. I never thought about that. Are you seeing an increase of fires because of electronic devices?
Well, Ronnie, and I have 3, so if you need to borrow one for a little bit, I'd be happy to share. But, the thing that I'll find with our boys, Danielle and I, it's just they leave stuff, right? They get distracted or they start doing something else or they get up to get something and they leave it on the couch. And these are areas that can kind of muffle and compress around the fan that would draw to cool the batteries and things like that. And I don't know that I can say that we've had an increase in fires as a result, but we know that there are people that will smell an odor. We go in the house and we see that it's just started to smolder or create a near fire, if you will. And that's really, we're trying to prevent fires from happening. So just thinking of those types of things and what's charging and once something's done charging, just to unplug it and not leave everything, every socket in your house with something plugged into it. Those are just good safety things to always keep in mind. And remember, we never plug power strips into power strips too. They're not like Christmas lights. We don't keep plugging those in sequence.
That's a good reminder. I might have one of those in my house right now. So I'll be sure to go home and change that this afternoon because sometimes you're running so many devices, but you need that extra length. So you do one to the other to the other. So good advice there, Chief. Anything else you want to get out to the people before we let you go?
Well, and I know we're probably short on time, but if there's anything COVID, I know there's a lot going on out there with, the president going in the hospital and just discussions out there. Again, if we can sort through all of the chatter and everything that's going on in mainstream media and bring it back to what we've been saying from day one on the Megacast, wash your hands, remember thoroughly, 20 seconds, happy birthday 2 times through, create physical distance between people, especially when you can't wear a mask. And by all means, masks work, period. Masks work, period. So we want to wear those when we can't honor physical distancing or we're not feeling well and we need to be out to do grocery shopping or something. We want to make sure that we're able to do that.
And that is a good note to leave on there, Chief. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We'll let you get back to your Fire Ops 101. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. And when we come back, we are going to do a deep dive into the world of politics.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Thank you for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studio with Tyler Keith, Civic Center TV, as well as in the studio of 89.3 Lakes FM. And as a reminder, you can catch us on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T, as well as on the radio, 89.3, 88.1 as well. And a huge thank you to the West Bloomfield Fire Department. You can check out their Facebook page as well. So pretty much we're everywhere. We try to make it easy for everyone to tune in to the Megacast because we always have exciting and informative guests, such as our next guest, David Dulio, professor of political science and the director of the Center for Civic Engagement, Oakland University. Always great having you on the show. Boy, we had you on just like a week or two ago, and so many things to talk about. I remember one of the things we said, it was like, it's exciting. That's going to be an exciting month. It is like every single day something new is happening. We'll start off with the president.
What part, Ron? Where do you want to go from there, right?
Yeah, because we had you on right before the debate. So let's just go ahead and start there. If the president recovers enough for there to be a second debate, do you think we'll see a repeat of the first one?
That's a good question. I think that there have been discussions, even starting immediately after the first one, about format changes. And you've read the same stories that I have about maybe potentially having the moderator have a mute button on microphones. Based on the first debate, that probably seems like a good idea. I've even seen folks suggest putting both candidates in a soundproof booth and only turning on the mic when it's their 2 minutes. Of course, the candidates would have to agree to those changes, and that's not a guarantee. We may see some extra precautions instituted, maybe because of the president's positive test. Maybe a plexiglass barrier. There's going to be one of those, I understand, between Vice President Pence and Senator Harris in the vice presidential debate tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe we even have the second debate virtually. So I think there's a lot up in the air. I think it happens, but I think the process or the logistics of it remain to be seen.
Do you think Trump intended to go in there and be as disruptive as he was?
I think it was certainly part of the strategy to frustrate the former vice president. Whether or not that went too far. I've even heard some Republicans complain that, the president should not have interrupted Biden so much, because if the idea is to get Biden to make a mistake, you got to give him some time to make the mistake and not interrupt him and cut him off. So we'll see if there's a slight change in strategy in a week or so.
It was definitely more like a reality show episode than a presidential debate that we are used to. I even saw on social media they had bingo cards made out, like drinking bingo cards, where it was like,
sure.
oh.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it was a show, right?
Those are nothing new to politics, right? There are. I can't believe I'm going to say this on television, but in the radio. But there are drinking games for the State of the Union address, drinking games for debates. It's commonplace.
Where have I been all these years? It would have been so much more entertaining, I think. So now let's talk a little bit about the upcoming election. How do you think the election is going to be impacted with the positive COVID-19 case for the president and so many members of his team and other Republicans?
Sure. I think you've seen one impact already, is that the president is not able to campaign the way that he would like. With even in the era of COVID-19 and the restrictions that are in place, he's been able to have rallies, including here in Michigan, in places like Freeland, in airport hangars, which have come under some criticism, but he's been able to do them with thousands of people, and that's even different than he would like. He's used to filling arenas with 15, 20, 30,000 people. He can't do those. And he won't even be able to do the public events for the next at least 10 days or so. So, and the campaign's already announced that, right? They've said that they're going to move all of their events that were planned to virtual events. The vice president even stood in for the president a couple days ago, I think maybe over the weekend at an event. And I think that'll continue. I think that we need to see a little bit more time elapse before we can say with any certainty how the state of the race has changed, if at all. And I think that it'll be difficult to separate the effects of, say, if there is a shift. Was it the debate? Was it the president's positive test? Hard to isolate one of those effects.
David Dulio with us, the professor of political science at Oakland University and the director of the Center for Civic Engagement, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. On to the vice presidential debate tomorrow evening between Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, the Democratic challenger for that position. What can we expect to be different from this debate as opposed to the presidential debate? Do you expect it to be more tame and more substantial than what we saw last week from the president and former Vice President Joe Biden?
Well, I think it'll be more tame for sure. I think the substance part is up in the air, and that's not a knock at either Vice President Pence or Senator Harris. It's really a knock at the format, right, where these individuals are asked to talk about incredibly complex issues and problems and solutions to those problems in a relatively short amount of time. And I talked to my students before the presidential debate about this, and we talked about how, can you really talk about healthcare in 2 minutes? Can you talk about immigration in 2 minutes? Can you talk about trade in 2 minutes? It's really hard. So we're almost set up for failure when it comes to the format really driving us toward basically soundbite politics. I do think as I said, I think it'll be tamer, if only because Vice President Pence has a very different demeanor when he's on a debate stage than President Trump does. And your viewers and listeners have seen that before. Pence is calm. He is very meticulous, and I think that'll come out again.
You have your pulse on the younger generation because you are a professor and you get to engage with the students. What feedback are you getting from your students when it comes to politics and what we're seeing right now? Are they more engaged or less engaged? And on top of that, are they even relying on mainstream media to get their information?
Let's take the second question first and come back to the other one. No, they're not, right? They live through social media. They live through sound bites, even more so than the 2-minute debate answers that we're going to see tomorrow night. We talked about this after the debate on when we were in class on Thursday, and I was shocked to hear them say that they weren't really all that enthralled with Joe Biden. A lot of the young people these days, as you know, and it was on display yesterday when Bernie Sanders was in Ann Arbor talking to college kids. A lot of the younger generation, the newest voters are, they tend to be progressive. They tend to lean further to the left, and they're not terribly enthralled with Biden and may not vote for him.
Wow, that's so interesting to hear. Let's shift a little bit and talk more on state politics. The Supreme Court ruling on Governor Whitmer's executive orders. How do you think that's going to impact the upcoming election?
Well, it's just another point to fight about, right? It's another element that's going to drive a wedge between partisans.
The judicial reform, or for the judges in their reelection or election campaigns, I think before we don't pay attention to that. So many of us don't pay attention. Very few people do. But now this issue of could this go back before the Supreme Court and with a more liberal judge and have it reversed, do you think that could maybe get people to start paying attention? Because the ads are on the air already.
Sure. And I think, too, that there are well, let me put it this way, right? Most people come out and vote for the offices, as we would call it, at the top of the ticket. Presidency, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, and then you get down further down the ballot into state legislature, and then your local races. And the judicial elections are always much further down. And there's always what we would call ballot fall off. Where people stop voting the further down the ballot they go. So the voter turnout, or the number of votes cast for the president, is going to be very, very much higher than for the Supreme Court. I think, though, that the folks that are going to vote for that office are heavily partisan, right? They know who their nominees are. And that's worth mentioning, is that the Supreme Court and all the Supreme Court elections in Michigan are nonpartisan on the ballot. But those candidates only get on the ballot because a party has nominated them. So we've got two candidates that have been nominated by the Democrats, and two candidates that have been nominated by the Republicans. And the partisans know who they are. The folks who are hardcore Democrats or dyed-in-the-wool Republicans, they know who their nominees are, and they're going to vote for them.
David Dulio with us, professor of political science and the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, today with us on the Oakland County Megacast. David, with Governor Whitmer's orders being revoked by the state Supreme Court, it kind of leaves a little bit of the response of COVID-19 in flux, which opens an opportunity for the state legislature to start making some decisions together, which could benefit either party or one party singularly. Do you believe that the governor's orders being revoked and a need for a state response will encourage the legislature to be a little more productive on this particular issue, particularly because there's a chance that unemployment benefits and other safety precautions may be in jeopardy as the governor's orders are revoked?
Sure. Well, I would say two things. First, we've seen in the last day or so the Michigan Department of Health issue its own orders that are, in some cases, taking the place of the governor's orders, which it can do through statute. In terms of the legislative response, I think it's the legislature, both the Republican-led House and Republican-led Senate, have been clamoring for this, right? They have been asking the governor to involve them in the COVID response, and they have been met with a firm no. So now that they're going to have that chance, now's their time, and it's put up or shut up, right? They're going to have to work together to do things that are beneficial to the state, whether it's on health and safety measures, whether it's on unemployment benefits. They're going to have to work together, and this is shared powers. You've probably heard the term separation of powers. That's the system that we have, and that's not really true, right? Power is not truly separated between the executive branch and the legislative branch and the judicial branch. They each have a role in all different powers of government. The legislative power, I should say, is shared between the legislative branch, the executive branch, and even the judicial branch. So this is going to be shared powers on display, the legislature and the governor having to work together. So
many of these very important topics are changing daily, but yet we already have an election underway. While we typically like to think November 3rd is election day, people here in the state of Michigan are already voting. But with so many changes, do you think that's going to impact how they vote? Like maybe they voted absentee, but then they want to spoil their ballot and go in and vote in person because the people and the issues are changing. How is this going to impact our outcome of our election because we are voting early now?
It's an interesting question, and I think that in this election cycle, in this political environment, the number of people who would want to do that is really, really small. I think most people have their minds made up, whether or not they're going to vote absentee, whether or not they're going to vote in person. They know who they're voting for, and they're probably not changing their mind.
Yeah. How big of a deal is undecided voters at this point? I think this has been such a polarizing election that there's got to be very few undecided voters still out there. And that's usually at this point in time of an election campaign who they're trying to go after.
Right. And I think you're right about that. The number of persuadable voters, the number of people who are still making up their mind is really small. And frankly, there may be more people who are deciding whether or not they're going to vote at all versus making up their mind between are they going to vote for Biden, Trump, or somebody else. And that's really a key factor in moving forward, right? And the campaigns at the top of the ticket are going to be engaged from now until November 3rd in communicating with their voters in as personal a way as possible and making sure that they turn out their voters, whether it's through absentee or through a vote in person at the polls. That number is small, but it's still important. I think that in a divided election, a divided society, which we have, polarized nation, we're in a turnout election, right? Whichever side gets their supporters to the polls the best probably wins. Now that may change between now and November 3rd if the race sees a big shakeup, either coming out of the first debate, after the president's positive test, after the upcoming vice presidential debate. There's a lot still left to happen, so the race could certainly shift. And we're seeing maybe some signs of that. There's a new poll out this morning in the Detroit News and on Channel 4 about Biden extending his lead. Though singular polls are always dicey to look at, right? So we'd want to see more polls to know if is this actually a real result? Are we seeing a real shift, or is it an outlier, so to speak?
David Dulio with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Because you do have access to the students, I've talked to some of the younger generation, people in their 20s, and I've been surprised at how many have said they don't plan on voting because they're sick of it. They're sick of the divisiveness. They're just turned away from the whole process. And they're such an important part of this election. Are you hearing those same concerns with some of the students or people that they know as well?
Sure. I had a student in class tell me that a half a dozen of his friends, after the first presidential debate, said that they changed their minds and they're going to vote third party because they just couldn't stand what they saw. And that really gets at, I'm glad you brought that up, because that gets at something I said before about, the decision now may be for some, not between candidates, but between do I cast a ballot or not? And if they don't, it's probably a protest, right? Because they don't like what they see. They don't like bickering. They don't like the constant name calling. They don't like the back and forth. They don't like all the disagreement. And what did we have in the first presidential debate? All of that and more, right? It was a debacle. And I think everybody, any true, sort of non-biased observer can say that and look at that and see it, right? And those are the things that absolutely just drive a lot of Americans crazy. And many of them we would put in that persuadable, undecided category because maybe they're just now starting to pay attention. They're not like you and me that pay attention to this from day one of the presidential race, which was frankly back in 2016. The 2020 campaign started in 2016 or early 2017. But a lot of Americans don't really enter the thought process until Labor Day or so of the election year.
Wow, that's amazing to think about. David Dulio, professor of political science and director of the Center for Civic Engagement over at Oakland University. You all have great things going on over at the Center for Civic Engagement. I know we've talked about it before, but do you want to give a quick plug for some of your upcoming virtual events?
Sure. Just in the next week, we've got two great programs that are that we're going to offer both the campus and the community. The first one is tonight, actually, at 5 o'clock, virtual session with two folks that your viewers and listeners probably know very well. Nolan Finley from the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson from Detroit Public Television and Detroit Radio. They're going to talk about civility. They're going to talk about they run something in addition to their day jobs, the Civility Project. And even though Nolan and Stephen disagree on almost everything politically, they remain great friends, right? And what they're going to do is talk about their relationship. They're going to talk about how they maintain that friendship while disagreeing, maintaining civility. Folks that attend are going to have a chance to be in some breakout rooms and talk with other individuals who are interested in this. And then on Monday, we're going to do a program with a gentleman named Stan Greenberg, all focused on Macomb County politics. Macomb County is a really interesting place politically. It is home of the Reagan Democrats back from the 1980 and 1984 elections, which helped Ronald Reagan carry our state. Stan Greenberg is the pollster who coined that term, and he's going to come virtually and talk to us about Macomb County politics, the history of it, and what's happening in terms of current dynamics. Folks can see all of the stuff that we do at the center through our Facebook page. We're at OUCCE, and you can get links to sign up for both of those, and as well as things that are coming up in the future right there. Thanks for the opportunity.
I'll be fascinated to hear what he has to say about Macomb County politics, because Mark Hackel is stepping out, basically going against the Democratic Party, and I'd be fascinated to see his intake or hear his intake on that, his insight. He was really the one who blew the whistle on the prosecutor, Eric Smith. They've been longtime friends. He's been basically, speaking out against the governor and the mask mandate, said Macomb County's not going to issue one.
It's a very interesting place politically. The Reagan Democrats, as you know, are folks who, at least in the 80s, considered themselves Democrats, but they voted for Reagan. They voted for Reagan because they thought he was tough. They thought that he stood up for the little guy, and that he always had American interests in mind, at home and abroad. And we saw that carry over in 2016. I would argue that the Reagan Democrats were back with a vengeance in 2016 and helped Donald Trump carry Michigan, because they said the same things about him. And if we look at 2020, look at how Joe Biden is campaigning in Macomb County. He's talking about build it in Michigan, build it in America, right? That's trying to tap into some of those same sentiments.
So real quickly, if people cannot actually watch it during the event, are you guys going to record these sessions that they could check it out for later?
Yep. Absolutely. They can find us on that Facebook link. Folks are always welcome to email me if they have questions. And it's Dulio, so DDULIO at oakland.edu. They can reach me that way.
Thank you so much for your time. You're like one of my favorite guests. You're always engaging and enlightening and informative at the same time. So thank you for your time and good luck with the event tonight. I'm sure it's going to be a great event. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and then when we come back, we'll end out the show taking a step back in time. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's going to be who?
And whether we wear green
Or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19, wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Boy, the time has been flying by today, Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
We are just like that. Almost finished with the show, but we are leaving on a fun note. You know, just like there's nothing like a building that withstands the test of time. And I think sometimes in this area, we forget to look at the architect of our buildings and how long they've been around. And you think about the walls and the history that they hold. And so with that, we want to bring in Corey Taylor. She is with the Office and Activities Coordinator over at the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. She is here with us today to talk about one of our favorite schools within the West Bloomfield School District. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So go ahead and let's talk about the 100th anniversary with Roosevelt Elementary. It didn't start out as an elementary school, though, did it?
So it was in Kego. There was a Kego Harbor School that was started in the early 1900s, and that housed pretty much every child that was school age in the area, and that went, I believe it was kindergarten through basically elementary school and middle school all kind of combined into that Keego Harbor School. And then eventually there was a population boom, and, you hit 1920, and we've got automotive industry surging in Detroit, and, a lot of families are able to move into the suburbs. And so there were a lot of kids, and Keego Harbor School wasn't big enough. And so that's why they built Roosevelt. It was the primary school for the district. You could go to school from kindergarten to 10th grade until the mid-30s. And then they added on 11th and 12th grades. And then it became the elementary, middle, and high school. And then the high school lasted, I think, for a couple of decades, and then it slowly dropped down over the years back to an elementary school that it is now.
It really is fascinating to think of a school's history and how that helps document what was going on in society at that time.
Yeah, it's been really interesting since I'm doing the presentation on Sunday. I've been doing a lot of the research on it, and I've driven by. I used to live in Waterford, and I used to drive past that school every single day, and to not know what was going on or what basically the building had been through. It's been fascinating to me. Hopefully it will be to everybody else that attends the presentation, but it's been fascinating to learn about it.
Back before our new city hall was built in Keego Harbor, we got to vote over at the Roosevelt Elementary School, and it really does take you back to time, because even though we're, how many years later, you can still see the history of that building. It's not the sleek school buildings that you see today, but there is somewhat of a comfort in looking at the history of just the building itself.
Yeah, it definitely is that. I grew up in Farmington Hills, and going to schools, I loved my schools, when they were there, but knowing, it just had this was a school building kind of feel, from the 60s and forward. But going to see Roosevelt, it's uniquely different. You can tell that it's a school building, but it's this beautiful, tall, multi-level brick structure that just holds a lot of community history. It's very much, not just a school for, the kids, but it's very much a community center for Keego Harbor and, all the past students.
Corey Taylor joining us, Office and Activities Coordinator for the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, with us today, talking about the 100th anniversary of Roosevelt School. So the pandemic's still going on. This would normally be something that would be commemorated in person on site at the Roosevelt School. How is the Historical Society going to continue that celebration, albeit keeping everybody at a distance?
Well, originally we were kind of hoping to partner with a lot of different people and organizations, and even try to host the open house at the school. Obviously that's out of the question now. So we're going to be doing just sort of a regular presentation. We'll have historical photographs and maybe a couple of videos on some of the artifacts that we have from the school. And we're trying to collect the stories of past students, and to have maybe use those in some sort of event maybe next year if we're able to as a post-anniversary celebration. Possibly we'll have to see where everybody's at and where the pandemic situation is next year. But we're kind of just moving forward with our now regular virtual presentation format. So hopefully we provide somewhat of a decent look at the school's history, and possibly in the future we can do something maybe for its 110th anniversary.
That would sound good. You said that you did a lot of research for this presentation, and not to give away any thunder for your actual presentation that is going to take place on Sunday, but can you give us somewhat of a teaser, one fun thing that you found out about the school that you didn't know?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't know most of the things that I found out. I knew very little about Roosevelt, surprisingly, just from, I knew little tidbits. The interesting thing to me, which might not be interesting to, maybe other people, I studied architecture in high school, and I found it very interesting that this one building has gone through 7 different renovations. So there were additions put on, and then, so what I found really interesting about those was that the original building was never torn down. It was remodeled, renovated, changed, updated, brought up to code as the codes were created, and then building codes were created and changed throughout the years. They just kept adding things onto the building, which I thought was very interesting, because in my lifetime, buildings aren't really renovated. They're just torn down and a new one's put in. So to have that 100-year-old building still there is pretty remarkable.
So in your research, are there any other buildings that have been standing longer than Roosevelt within our area here?
No, as far as I know, and from what I've been told from past alumni and members of the Historical Society, Roosevelt is the longest standing school building in West Bloomfield School District.
That is fascinating in itself. And it's like you said, it is another reminder of why sometimes it's important to not just demolish a building and start over, because I'm sure at some point in time, from a cost standpoint, that may have been a viable option. But to keep that history so that the stories are continue to be told, because I would imagine if you go back into that school and you attended it when you were little, the memories must just come flooding back.
Yeah, I've actually spoken to one person in particular. She went to school there in the late 90s to the early 2000s, and she continues to be involved with the school even now. And for her, from what I can tell, and I had this feeling with my elementary school, ironically, that was torn down a few years ago, so I can't really go back and visit it, but for her, every time she went into the school after she left, every time she went into the front doors and went up the stairs, and saw the different hallways and stuff, they've obviously changed in the 20 years since she's been a student, but they still bring back the same memories, the same feelings. And for her, that school just being there is a sense of comfort, which I can 100% understand with her. So I think that's something that is very important. There was a point in time where the community had to vote whether the school was viable to continue to be standing, to continue to be used as a school. And the community just unanimously agreed, yes, we need to keep it. And if they hadn't done that in, I believe it was either the 60s or the 70s, one of those 7 renovations happened and was able to bring that building back to its former glory, basically, to keep it standing. And I think that's just a testament to Keego Harbor as a community in general. They fought to protect what they cared about.
It is hard. My junior high was torn down, so when I go back to my hometown, I don't live there any longer, but you go back and there's a vacant lot that sits there now. And some of my former classmates, were able to get a portion of the basketball floor, the gym floor, with the logo, and he has it in his basement now. And that's kind of his way of holding on to the junior high days, because there are memories that are connected to these buildings. So for it to still be standing 100 years later, I think it's great that you guys are doing this presentation. Give us a little bit of details about the presentation, and then I want to ask you about some of your other events going on.
Sure. So this open house, we have done in the past, we have one monthly open house. It's on the second Sunday of every month. The difference now is that it's virtual. Hopefully more people can attend that way. But the Roosevelt open house will be this Sunday, October 11th at 1 p.m. The Zoom meeting link is on our website and on the Facebook event on our Facebook page. It's also included in the West Bloomfield Parks fall activities guide. So if you get that, that information's there as well. It's a free event, and it will be recorded for archival purposes. So just keep the video and mic muted and turned off, and we'll be good to go.
Will you be hosting from the school?
No. So right now, all the schools are basically closed to outside personnel, outside people. Even parents of the students aren't allowed in the school buildings. So it was kind of out of the question for me to even to go into the building at this time. So I'll be doing it from my office right here. But you mostly won't be seeing me. You'll be seeing my presentation. So.
Corey Taylor with us from the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. Just another minute with you, Corey, or so before we have to let you go today. For those that are interested, of course, in the 100th anniversary presentation about the Roosevelt School in Keego Harbor and other historical events being held by our Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, where can they find more information, and maybe what are some other exciting virtual and non-virtual events that may be coming up very soon?
Sure. So all of our event information is going to be found on our website. So it's going to be gwbhs.org/events. Or you can just go to our website and they're right there on the homepage. We do have 2 more events this month. So the first one is going to be next Thursday, October 15th. At 7 p.m. So that's actually a rescheduled program from August. We have Jamon Jordan of Black Scroll Network. He's going to be doing a presentation on Black women of Detroit. And so that's in conjunction with West Bloomfield Parks. So again, that's going to be on October 15th, next Thursday at 7 p.m. And then the following week on October 21st, we have a presentation also by me on the wayside outdoor sign exhibits. So if you've ever walked on the Rails to Trails trail along that used to be the railroad, there are outdoor signs depicting the automotive history of the area. So I'll be doing a presentation on the history of those and kind of where to find those and why they're there. So that's going to be on October 21st at 7 p.m.
I live on the trail, and we absolutely love those signs. I remember back in the beginning, though, when they first went up, someone kept stealing them. And we're like, stop. So it's glad to see that you all were able to come up with a way to secure them, because every time I bike or ride the trail, I stop and I read them, and I see other people doing it every single day as well. So people are noticing it and appreciating it. Just about another minute here with you quickly. I know that the last time we spoke with you, you were doing the project of collecting memories during COVID-19. How is that going?
Pretty well. We've got a few responses, well, more than a few. And we kind of launched monthly projects, different, they're, I guess, smaller in scope, but they're still out for the community to respond to. So we still are collecting COVID stories, pandemic stories, and, class of 2020, if they're still, willing to talk about it, we're collecting those stories as well. But every month, so we started in August, we're doing a monthly collecting memories project. So August was vintage car memories. September was school memories, and this month we're working on fall and Halloween memories. We've already gotten a few responses from community members on fall and Halloween memories, trick-or-treating especially. So all of those links can be found on our Facebook page right now, and then in hopefully the next few days we'll have them on our website.
Great. Thank you so much. This year's Halloween trick-or-treating is going to be a lot different than years past. So Corey Taylor with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. We so appreciate your time and everything that you are doing here for the community, and good luck with your presentation on Sunday.
Thank you.
That is pretty much going to wrap it up for us here on the Oakland County Megacast on this Tuesday. Tyler, before we go, we want to let people know Governor Whitmer is going to be holding a press conference this afternoon.
Yeah, she'll be talking at 1 o'clock. She'll be joined by Jocelyn Benson and others to discuss the elections. This is not necessarily a COVID-19 presentation. I'm sure that she will address that. She does take questions from the press, but that will be at 1 p.m. We'll do our best to cover that here. Likely will be on civiccentertv.com, as we do have a replay of the West Bloomfield Township Board meeting at 1 o'clock.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Have a happy Tuesday, everyone.